Refused to change my clothes for my roommate's girlfriends, who claimed I made them uncomfortable. Now they're avoiding our apartment. I'm a 21-year-old woman living with 2 male roommates. For most people, I know this might seem like a weird dynamic, but honestly, it works for us. We'd already been living together before either of them got girlfriends, and I've had a boyfriend for 4 years myself. He's actually good friends with my roommates. I've never had any issues with their girlfriends, even though they're over at our place at least 5 days a week. They mostly stick to my roommates' rooms, and they've always seemed genuinely nice, so I haven't really minded their constant presence. But about 5 months into living together, things suddenly took a weird turn. Apparently, at some point, the girlfriends decided to have a little meeting about what I've been wearing around the apartment. One afternoon, the two of them cornered me without my roommates present and said they'd prefer if I would cover up whenever I left my room, claiming I was making everyone uncomfortable. I tried to keep calm and asked them to explain exactly which of my outfits were the problem. They basically told me they'd never seen me wear anything appropriate. Now, let me give you some context. I never wear anything inappropriate outside my room. I get changed in the bathroom after showers and I'm always fully covered. Honestly, 90% of the time I'm in baggy t-shirts or hoodies and sweatpants. The most scandalous thing I've ever worn in common spaces has been a tank top and shorts. They're not see-through, and I always wear a bra. My shorts cover my entire butt and go mid-thigh. My outfits would pass a high school dress code, no problem. But, not to brag, I am blessed with a fat ass. And I genuinely think that is the real problem here. After their first complaint, I made a point to only wear sweatpants out of my room, never shorts. But then they brought it up again. This time, they said, "I thought we talked about your outfits. It makes us really uncomfortable. How would your boyfriend feel about you dressing like this in front of other men?" That's when I just got confused. I told them that I really thought I was being respectful and considerate of their feelings, even though, it's my apartment, too. They turned it around on me and told me I wasn't a girl's girl and that I was just waiting to snatch their boyfriends. I couldn't help but reply, "It isn't my fault you're insecure about your relationships. I've already gone out of my way to make you comfortable in my home. Your boyfriends haven't said a word to me, so I think you're being dramatic. This is my apartment, you're not even on the lease, and you're already here more than what's actually allowed." I'd tread lightly before making demands about what I can wear in my apartment. Their response? That I'm full of myself and, apparently, their boyfriends won't want to sign another lease with me. The thing is, when I talked to my roommates privately later on, they had no idea any of this had happened and said they absolutely want to re-sign the lease with me. It honestly blows my mind that these girls thought they could band together and dictate what I wear, especially since I don't dress scandalously at all. So now I'm just left wondering, how the hell am I supposed to navigate this? Is it crazy for me to feel this annoyed? Since all this happened, my roommates have been total angels. Since I introduced them, they've actually gotten pretty close with my boyfriend too. He doesn't live with us, but they hang out all the time. There's no part of me looking for new roommates. We're already in the process of signing a new lease. As for those claims about not signing again with me, both of my roommates seemed genuinely confused when I brought it up, and the girlfriends haven't been over since that last confrontation. About 5 days now, which is super unusual for them. One of the guys actually said I scared his girlfriend a little when I stood my ground. Maybe standing up for myself and not caving to their insecurity was enough to put them off? I haven't seen or interacted with them since, but apparently, both are supposed to come by tonight. For some added context, these girlfriends actually wear way less clothing than I do in the apartment, but they have that supermodel thin look that society seems to think is fine to flaunt, so nobody calls them out. Not that I agree with what's acceptable and what's not, society is just really twisted sometimes. Yesterday, I finally had a sit down with my roommates. I asked if they planned to resign, and it was a clear yes. They didn't understand why their girlfriends talked to me alone about any of this. When I half-joked, half-seriously asked if either had an issue with how I dressed at home, they just laughed and said I look homeless, typical of our humor. We talked about how much the girlfriends are actually at our place. Our rent covers everything but Wi-Fi, so it's not costing me more, and most of the time they keep to themselves. But I told them flat out, I don't mind their girlfriends being here, but I draw the line at anyone making me feel uncomfortable in my own home. I also made it clear that if the girlfriends confront me like that again without their boyfriends present, I won't hesitate to ask them to leave. My roommates were completely supportive and said they'd talk to their girlfriends about everything. Now I just have to wait and see how things go the next time I see those girlfriends. Update 1. The girlfriends came back yesterday, so we finally had the dreaded house meeting. Let me add a little context here. The last blow-up with the girlfriends confronting me happened about a week ago, and then I had a conversation with my roommates 3 days back. I had a feeling the girlfriends would return soon, so I was bracing myself for whatever drama was coming. It's perfectly normal for the girlfriends to be hanging out in our apartment even when their boyfriends aren't around, which is why my roommates didn't know about the conversation until I told them. Just to clarify, I never meant to imply that the girlfriends weren't attractive or that they were too thin. I just wanted to point out that I'm a curvier person, a size 8 and on the short side, compared to them, tall, size 0, so sometimes the same outfits look different on us and may get interpreted differently, and suddenly, I'm the one being inappropriate. And for the record, nobody is getting photos of me, so anyone with that in mind can move along. Now, Moving on to the main event. One of the girlfriends, let's call her Maya, showed up first. She found me in the kitchen while I was cooking and tried to start up a conversation about the whole situation. I kept things polite and told her, flat out, that we should wait until her boyfriend got home so that all the right people would be present. She looked a bit confused by that but didn't argue, instead just disappearing into his room. I sent a quick message in our roommate group chat, letting everyone know that the 5 of us needed to have a good, honest talk once everyone was around. The roommates were totally on board. Eventually, everyone arrived. At some point, the other girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, must have come in, but honestly, I'm not sure when. I made sure to make a statement by coming into the living room wearing my oversized Grinch onesie. No ankles exposed, no chance for anyone to accuse me of dressing provocatively. My roommates thought it was absolutely hilarious. The girlfriends, not so much. So, we all sat down. The air was awkward and thick with tension. I took the lead. I explained, as calmly as I could, that it didn't seem reasonable for anyone who isn't paying rent to dictate the rules of the apartment. If Maya or Sarah had an issue with me, it would make more sense for my roommates to bring it up with me directly. There shouldn't be confrontations between me and their girlfriends. The roommates stood by me, saying that was only fair and apologizing for their girlfriend's behavior. The apologies weren't necessary, but I appreciated the gesture. During this, both girlfriends sat in silence, though Sarah made it clear she was unimpressed, rolling her eyes every other sentence. I turned to her and gave her the chance to say whatever was on her mind, and that's all the opening she needed. She basically exploded, accusing me of being too controlling about cleaning and buying stuff for the apartment, things that, frankly, have nothing to do with her. Then she accused me of prancing around on my high horse in skimpy clothes. I asked what exactly she thought I was wearing that was so skimpy, and she answered, "You walk around with everything on display." Her boyfriend, my roommate, jumped in at that point, saying he'd never seen me wear anything inappropriate and that there was nothing for her to worry about. Apparently, this was the wrong thing to say. Sarah snapped at him for having my back, called him an ass for defending me, and immediately stomped off to his room to start packing her things. Meanwhile, Maya just broke down crying. She insisted she had never meant to upset me, that Sarah was actually the one who had gotten into her head and pushed her to confront me. She claimed she didn't actually care about what I wore, hadn't seen a problem, and had basically just been swept up in Sarah's drama. Honestly, that tracked. Maya had always been pretty quiet through all of this, nodding along and backing Sarah up, but rarely saying much herself. I told her that if she really disagreed with Sarah, she should have stood up for me, or at least not helped her to confront me if she didn't see a problem herself. She promised she wanted to work on our relationship and hoped we could become friends in spite of everything. I'm still wary, but I guess it's nice of her to say. Back in the other room, Sarah and my roommate had a huge fight, almost an hour long. In the end, Sarah left the apartment with all her stuff. I asked my roommate what the deal was, and he said things seemed to be over between them, though nothing official yet. So, that's how the showdown went down. Maybe not how anyone expected, but at least the drama seems to be over for now. Update 2. Yesterday around noon, I was working from home in my usual glamorous outfit, stolen college hoodie, sock bun, Crocs, when the front door opened and Sarah walked in with a girl I'd never seen before. Grocery tote on one arm, phone in the other, marching straight down the hall like she owned the place. I stepped out of the kitchen and told her point blank we weren't doing anything without my roommate here. She shot back that she was just grabbing her stuff and the things she bought him, which, okay, but his bedroom door was closed and locked because he and I had already talked about not letting anyone in while he wasn't home. She tried the handle, realized it was locked, and immediately spun on me with, "Are you seriously locking me out of my own boyfriend's room?" I reminded her he's my roommate, not her landlord, and I wasn't going to let anyone into a locked room without the actual person on the lease present. I texted him that she was here with a friend and he texted back on my way. "Do not let them in my room." Cool. We wait. Her friend started filming me on her phone and thinking that would somehow intimidate me into unlocking a door I don't even have a key to. I told her she could film my Grinch green Crocs all she wanted, but if they tried to force a door or take anything from the common spaces that wasn't clearly theirs, I'd be calling the building manager and the police. We stood there in a weird triangle, me, Sarah, and phone friend, while Maya sat on the couch pretending to scroll and very obviously trying not to exist. I didn't even realize Maya was there at first. She popped out of my other roommate's room after the front door opened, did a little wave, then immediately sank into the cushions. My roommate got home first, then my other roommate a minute later, and then my boyfriend, because apparently hey the ex is here with a camera person reads like a siren. He went straight to his door, unlocked it, and told Sarah she could take her things, and only her things. She walked in and started filling the tote with everything that wasn't nailed down. He kept pulling items back out. Hoodie he bought, hoodie she bought him but left at our place. He let that one go. Random chargers, no. An entire stack of video games he's had since college, absolutely not. And then she put her hand on his PS5 like it was a prize on The Price is Right. She goes, "I paid for this." He goes, "You Venmo'd me $80 when I bought it." She says that means it's half hers. He pulls out his phone with the actual purchase receipt and the Venmo request he sent her saying for birthday dinner and gas. It was so painfully awkward I wanted to crawl into the pantry with the rice cooker. Her friend kept filming and whispering, say it again, like this was an episode of some show that lives on a platform I don't use. At some point in the middle of this, our building manager knocked. I guess a neighbor called about raised voices and unauthorized filming in the hallway. The manager stood there with his polite office smile and asked if everything was okay and reminded everyone that non-residents aren't allowed to linger in the hall or prop doors. Sarah tried to explain that she lived here basically, which got her the exact kind of slow blink you give a toddler holding a permanent marker. My roommate told him he'd change his bedroom keypad code and asked if the main lock could be rekeyed because his ex had been given the code in the past. The manager took his info and said they'd send maintenance to switch the cylinder tomorrow. I'm not even mad. The number of non-leaseholders who have had our code over the last year was getting ridiculous. Sarah left with a sweater, a tote of makeup and hair stuff, a plant, and her friend who kept the camera pointed at me until my roommate asked her if she wanted to file a police report about a hoodie while 3 witnesses stood there with receipts. Door shut, silence. When I say the air in our apartment finally felt normal, I mean I could hear our fridge hum again. Maya was still on the couch, eyes big, hands tucked under her legs. She almost started crying again, and I told her no one was going to yell at her. My roommate sat down and told her, we don't have to figure everything out right now, but we do need some clear rules. He said he wanted them to keep seeing each other, but he didn't want to come home to any more ambushes. She agreed immediately and suggested that if she's going to be here, it's only when he's home and no more girl meetings about what I wear, ever. She also asked if she could give the manager her ID to get her added to the guest list so she doesn't have to wait in the lobby like a weird cat. That felt adult and normal and, honestly, fine. Later that night, my boyfriend and the guys and I ordered takeout and queued up a movie while my roommate texted Sarah a very clean, very official "This is me confirming we are broken up, please do not come here again, please do not contact my roommates, coordinate any remaining pickups through me only." Blocked her on everything after he hit send. He was quiet for the first 20 minutes of the movie and then laughed at something dumb and it was like his shoulders finally went down. I didn't realize how tense our whole place has been until it wasn't. Because it's us, the universe handed me one last little bite of chaos. The next morning my boyfriend shows me a screenshot from his coworker who sent him a private story Sarah posted of a close-up of my feet in the Crocs with the caption "Imagine your man defending this around the house." Like, girl. If you're going to slander me, at least pick a less iconic shoe. I didn't respond. My roommate didn't respond. Maya texted me an apology for the post even though she didn't do it, and asked if she could come by later to talk. We ended up sitting on the kitchen floor for an hour eating pretzels out of the bag while she told me Sarah had been in her ear for weeks, sending her videos about modesty and girl code and telling her she needed to train me early if she wanted her relationship to last. She said she felt stupid and small and that she knew she should have said something sooner. I told her I'm not interested in being anyone's project. She said she got it. We agreed on simple boundaries. If there's ever an issue with me, she brings it to her boyfriend, and if I ever feel weird about something, I'll do the same. No triangulating. No hall ambushes. No wardrobe committee. Maintenance came today and changed the front door lock. We signed our new lease this afternoon and added a clause about guest limits and that any overnight guest beyond 3 nights a week has to be approved by all tenants. It sounds rigid, but honestly it just puts actual words to what we thought we were already doing. My roommates and my boyfriend celebrated by making me wear the Grinch onesie while we ate pizza on the floor because house uniform for formal proceedings. I can't predict what Sarah will try next online, but in our physical space, the temperature has dropped to normal human. Maya's been over twice since and it's been easy. She helped me cook dinner last night, and we talked about stuff that wasn't any of this. I walked from my room to the kitchen in a tank top and shorts today because it was 80 degrees, and no one spontaneously combusted. Wild. Update 3. 2 days after the lock change, the building manager emailed asking for a quick chat, which is the kind of phrase that makes your stomach remember every time you've ever untagged a photo. I went down with one of my roommates and the manager slid a manila folder across his desk labeled Incident, 4B hallway. Inside were stills from security, Sarah propping the door, her friend filming me in my Grinch green Crocs, me mid-sentence with the exact face you make when your mom calls you by your full name. He said an anonymous complaint had been filed about indecency in common areas. He flipped the folder around, tapped the photo, and said, deadpan, "That's a hoodie and rubber shoes." Then he asked if we wanted to put a formal trespass on Sarah. We said yes. He stamped something that looked official enough to vaccinate a cow and told us to call the desk if she set foot past the lobby. An hour later, I got a cream envelope from the county. Small Claims Court. Plaintiff, Sarah. Claim, return of shared property, PS5, and damages. I baptized our kitchen table with coffee. My roommate stared at it like it was a pop quiz he didn't study for and then said, "Fine, court date it is." Our courtroom was a beige shoebox with fluorescent lights that buzzed like a wasp stuck in a lampshade. The bailiff had the kind of face that said he'd seen 3 divorces and a raccoon in a briefcase before lunch. Sarah showed up with phone friend in a blazer 2 sizes too big and a folder of what turned out to be a Venmo screenshot and 2 selfies of her posing in front of the PS5 like it was the prom king. The judge asked for proof of ownership. My roommate handed over the receipt, serial number, and the warranty tied to his email. Sarah said she was basically on the lease and the judge shut her eyes in a way that made me feel seen by a higher power. She tried to argue common law cohabitation, which, in case you're wondering, is not the legal basis for getting half a gaming console because you bought gas twice and once brought over sushi. The judge denied her claim and, chef's kiss, ordered her to reimburse the filing fee. The bailiff had to ask phone friend twice to stop sneaking video. On the way out, Sarah said, to no one in particular, "This is why women never win," which was wild to hear while I stood there, a woman, winning by existing. Back home, the manager slid a notice under our door: fob updated, guest list updated, trespass order active. I taped it inside the pantry next to the rice because apparently governance feels more real when it lives by your carbs. Maya came by that evening with a grocery bag and a face like someone who's been running from a conversation and is finally ready to stop. "Do you like soup?" she asked, and then, because she is a very specific type of person, put a stock pot on my stove and started chopping celery like she was auditioning for PBS. She showed me her phone, a stack of DMs from Sarah about modesty and training me, which she'd finally screenshotted for her own sanity and then blocked. She said she'd felt stupid for not seeing it sooner. I said we all get taken in by loud people sometimes and then burned my tongue on a carrot to keep from turning it into a sermon. We ate soup at the counter and talked about shows we pretend we don't watch. The fridge hummed. It felt like our apartment remembered how to be boring. At 2 a.m., the fire alarm decided to try out a new personality. 2 beeps, nothing, 2 beeps again, the kind that makes your soul try to climb out through your earlobe. I stepped into the hallway in a tank top and sleep shorts because my room was actively auditioning to be a kiln. The whole floor trickled into the stairwell, 4C in a bathrobe and slippers, 4E with their cat in a laundry basket looking personally wronged by modern architecture. Maintenance did the ladder and screwdriver dance. The desk attendant asked if everything was cool with the X situation. I said we had a trespass. He nodded and said, "Good, because 10 minutes ago someone called to ask if non-residents are allowed to wait in the mailroom for a boyfriend who lives there and hung up when I asked for a name." Then the alarm stopped and we all went back to pretending we sleep like normal people. Around lunch the next day, my roommate got a text that his new controller had landed in the package locker. He went downstairs, came back with empty hands and that I'm not mad, I'm collecting facts face. The app said the code had already been used. Maintenance pulled the log. The manager pulled the camera footage for the locker area and waved us down to the office. On the screen, there she was, phone friend, same courtroom blazer, slipping in behind a delivery guy like a raccoon with a fake mustache, poking the touchscreen, shrugging at the camera like she was charming Ocean's 11, then leaving with nothing because she mistyped the code the second time. The desk attendant said she'd been issued a temporary visitor pass by someone on the first floor who didn't know any better. The manager printed stills, wrote up a report, and asked if we wanted a trespasser too. We said yes. He looked openly delighted to toggle the little red band switch twice in 1 week. The courier redelivered the controller later that afternoon and the desk held it like a hostage release. My roommate walked back in holding the box over his head. We clapped like idiots. It was deeply satisfying. By Friday, we wanted to celebrate something aggressively boring, so we invited a few friends over for tacos and to toast our new put the guest rules in writing lease clause like the millennials we are. My boyfriend did his tiny chef pan shake, my other roommate made margaritas like a guy who had spent a very meaningful amount of time with a jigger, and Maya came in with pico in a mason jar and a plant she said we couldn't kill if we tried. We had just gotten through the ceremonial first tortilla when the front desk called. Someone was downstairs trying to get buzzed up without an approval. They say they're here to retrieve personal items accidentally left during a past relationship and that you won't mind. The attendant read in a tone I can only describe as retail. I said we minded. He said okay and hung up. 2 minutes later my phone lit up with a public story tagging our building, a shaky shot of the facade with a caption, "Imagine needing security to keep you from telling the truth." I blocked and went back to chopping onions. Maya put her phone face down and whispered, "I'm so sorry," like a confession, and my roommate squeezed her knee and said, "You aren't responsible for grown adults making decisions." He said it again, softer, like he was reminding himself. We ate on the floor because the coffee table is exactly the right height for your knees when you're doing the taco lean. For dessert they made me put on the Grinch onesie because house uniform for official proceedings and honestly it's starting to feel like a weighted blanket. Maya laughed this real, surprised laugh I hadn't heard from her yet. It sounded like putting down a backpack that's been too heavy for too long. This morning there was a plain white envelope under our door with my name spelled right, which is how I knew it wasn't from a student loan servicer. Inside, a typed cease and desist full of legalese about harassment, defamation, and interfering with brand partnerships, signed by Sarah and witnessed by phone friend in ballpoint pen. I held it like it might be sticky. My boyfriend read it, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Does brand partnerships mean the 5 lip glosses on her Amazon storefront?" We took it downstairs to the manager just in case there was a real attorney hiding behind the clip art scales of justice. He glanced at the header and said, "That's Times New Roman," made a copy for the file, and told us to call him if anybody tried to serve us more paperwork so he could watch on camera for training purposes. The smile did the rest. There's not a neat bow. There's soup in my fridge, a plant on our windowsill, 2 names on the trespass list, and a PS5 purring like a space heater. I made pancakes in a crop top this morning, and the only thing flipping out in this apartment was the spatula. The front door lock clicks like it means it. I walked to the kitchen in shorts, poured coffee, and the fridge hummed, and nobody burst into flames. It's small, it's silly, and it's peace. Update 4. The subject line said Community Standards Forum, and my stomach did that roller coaster dip like I'd been called to the principal's office for existing. The building manager wanted 5 minutes of feedback in the lounge about front door codes and guest policies. I went with my roommates because we are apparently the type of people who bring support to a bulletin board. The lounge was 5 chairs, a ficus that looked done with all of us, and a whiteboard that said, guests, filming, door codes. 4C brought his tiny dog in a sweater that read security. 4E came in with the cat in the laundry basket, who stared like he was auditing the meeting for credit. The manager did his genial talk about we're tightening access, no filming in hallways without consent, don't prop doors. Then some guy from 3A tried to lob in and maybe a modesty guideline for hallways, which got him an immediate chorus of the kind of polite oh no honey smiles you save for someone about to lick a battery. The manager didn't miss a beat. We don't regulate clothing in common areas. He slid his eyes across the room with professional deadpan. Within reason. 4C's dog sneezed like a gavel and the topic politely evaporated. On our way out, the desk attendant waved us over with a neon pink post-it. Heads up, someone tried to sign out a visitor fob under guest of 4B, urgent delivery, and then got squirrely when I asked for ID. He shrugged in a way that made his eyebrows say, your raccoons are getting creative. The manager added, cheerful as a dentist, remember your trespass list is active. He says trespass list like most people say library card. That night, boring on purpose, pasta, movie, feet on the coffee table, peace like a blanket. Then around midnight, Maya goes still on the couch, head tilted. Do you hear that? There was a faint chirp, irregular, like a smoke detector with a cold. Chirp, silence, chirp. We all started the idiot dance, heads bent, listening, opening cabinets like the sound might crawl out on its own. I grabbed my phone and opened Find My because my brain has been ruined by the internet, and there it was. AirTag detected near you. The green circle on my screen got smaller as I moved toward Maya's toad on the chair. Her face did this slow no thing before her mouth caught up. She dumped the bag. Wallet, chapstick, a fistful of grocery receipts, a hair tie that has seen some things, a paperback, nothing. The chirp again, a tiny metallic hiccup. We ran the fine sound and I swear the room held itself still. The chirp answered from inside the lining, where the stitching had come loose near the pocket. My boyfriend got a seam ripper from our utility drawer, because of course we have a utility drawer, we contain multitudes, and, with the kind of concentration usually reserved for diffusing movie bombs, slid it under the thread. Inside, taped to the fabric with a strip of floral washi tape like someone tried to make surveillance whimsical, was a little white disc painted over with purple nail polish. Maya went so white I could see every freckle. She said once, very quietly, okay, and then twice, not quiet, okay, okay. I held it to the back of my phone and the serial number popped up like a tag at a museum. It didn't say a name, of course it didn't, but it was real. Not a fluke. Not a beep from the microwave lying about being done. She sat down like the couch had just remembered how to be gravity. My roommate wrapped his arm around her shoulder and said, we're going downstairs. The desk attendant didn't even pretend to be surprised. He slid us into the office, took down the details, and called it in on the non-emergency line while the manager printed our trespass orders like a librarian printing overdue notices for a really weird book club. The officer who showed up had the patient face of a man who has listened to 100 couples say, this isn't like us, and asked for the serial. He made a report, explained how it works, and told Maya how to file for a harassment order if she wanted to. You can't always tell who owns it from the number, he said, but there are steps. Save what you have. He sealed the AirTag in a brown envelope with neat block letters like a teacher returning your paper with a grade you earned. Back upstairs, Maya sat on our kitchen floor with her knees up and said, not looking at any of us, I feel so stupid. I told her she's not stupid, she made a choice to trust someone loud and got burned. We all have one of those somewhere. She danced her thumbs over her phone and then, in the kind of voice you use to narrate your own life when you don't want to give it more power, said, I'm going to file tomorrow. My roommate nodded. I'll go with you. He said it once like a fact and then again like a promise. The next morning, the building manager stuck his head into the lobby as we passed and said, if you need footage of dates and times, we'll pull it. He has become our personal legal drama side character and I can't tell if I want to knit him a thank you scarf or bake him a lasagna labeled evidence. By noon we had an email with an attachment, the official notice of trespass, updated to include phone friend by name, with a screenshot of her in the courtroom blazer at the package lockers. The manager had also slipped in a line about no tailgating into secure areas, and I had a vivid mental image of him writing it with the same flourish you'd use when signing a yearbook. Have a great summer. Don't illegally piggyback on delivery guys. Small world bonus level. At the coffee shop across the street, a girl with blue hair tapped my arm and said, hey, sorry, are you 4B? Someone in a blazer tried to buy my fob this morning. She held up the $40 that she did not accept. She said she needed access to pick up personal items from her boyfriend's place and then asked if I wanted to be on her channel. I told her I was late for ceramics. I bought Blue Hair her coffee and a banana bread because apparently we live in a community watch novel now. At 3, Maya texted, "At courthouse." The form was filled, a shaky photo of her holding a numbered ticket like she'd just won a chance to stand up for herself. She came back later with a sheet of paper and eyes that looked 10 pounds lighter. "Temporary order," she said. "Court date set." She leaned against my counter and let out this breath that felt like someone letting go of a rope. We stood there with our hands around mugs like they were little heaters. She put her head on my shoulder for a second and said, "Thank you for believing me." I told her she made soup. "We're even, because life likes balance." That evening the building announced a fire drill sometime this week and then immediately set it off 20 minutes into Mario Kart. We clattered down the stairs with half the floor. 4E carried the laundry basket cat like a crown jewel. At the landing, 3A, dress code guy, caught sight of my tank top, opened his mouth like he'd swallowed a bee, and 4C's dog barked at him exactly once in a way that communicated a full manifesto. Outside, the desk attendant did roll call in his head and then said, "To my boyfriend, house uniform?" I said, "It's in the wash." He nodded like a man who understands the sanctity of formal wear. On our way back up, there was an envelope on the floor by our door addressed to resident of 4B in bubbled high school cursive. My roommate opened it with the caution of someone who has already received one pretend legal letter. Inside, an invoice for damages to social media brand value with a due date of yesterday and a Venmo handle in Sharpie. My boyfriend set it on the counter, took a picture, and then used it as a coaster. The circle of condensation bloomed across the total due like a little meteorology lesson. We ate leftovers and watched the PS5 glow like a small sun. 4E's cat made an unsolicited house call by squeezing under our door. How? Physics? And decided my boyfriend's lap was Switzerland. The plant on our sill decided to keep living. The fridge hummed. Maya sent me a picture of the temporary order under her soup pot magnet, and my phone did a little buzz at the same time the oven timer went off. It felt like the apartment and our lives were on the same metronome for a second. I made grilled cheese in a crop top. No thunderbolts, no brimstone. The only thing popping that night was the toast. This morning I walked to the kitchen in shorts, poured coffee, and there was a soft knock. The building manager again, holding a laminated sheet. "We updated the guest policy board," he said, and then, with the tiniest grin, "Also, someone mailed a letter to management decency standards with magazine letters like a ransom note. I'm framing it for the back office." He handed me a copy for our records like a souvenir. There's not a movie ending. But there's a piece of paper on Maya's fridge, a laminated card in the manager's hand, a dog on 4C's floor in a security sweater, and a controller that actually showed up on the second try. We have boundaries written down in ink and a plant I haven't killed. The front door lock clicks like an agreement. I walked from my room to the stove in my most scandalous garment, the infamous shorts, flipped a pancake, and the only thing that sizzled was butter. The fridge hummed. Nobody melted. Peace, again, with edges.